Welcome to the Sports Arena, your front row ticket to the best in sports talk and entertainment. Great analysis, top-name guests, and news you can use from the sports landscape. So, take your seats, sit back, and relax, as you are now in the Sports Arena.
You know what you're capable of. Fix it.
And here's your host, Eric Wilson.
Wins. I'm like, all right, let's go. We get losses. I'm like, I need a minute. Collect myself.
What's going on, everybody? Your man Eric Wilson here for the Sports Arena, and I have such a great guest coming on the show today. As you know, I am a huge supporter not only of the WNBA, that's right, count it, 25 seasons, but of the Chicago Sky. So when I had the opportunity to speak to another fellow journalist slash media reporter slash podcast host this woman is just doing great things. I got to get her on the show. With that, I want to welcome in. She is the Chicago Sky and Red Star reporter. And like I said, she is the host of the Equal Pay podcast for the Chicago Sun-Times, Miss Annie Constabile. Annie, thank you so much for joining me here on the Sports Arena. How are you?
Wow, what a warm welcome. Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. Listen, you're a busy lady, so I don't want to keep you. But again, I appreciate your time. As someone who is covering this team, much like myself, you know, the Chicago Sky is, aside from my own Philadelphia Eagles, which is where I'm from, they are my second.
You're an Eagles fan. Go Eagles.
That's right. Oh, you're an Eagles fan too? I knew I liked you. See?
Well, I worked in Mississippi for a minute. So Fletcher Cox is an old Mississippi friend. So yes, I'm a big fan of the Eagles.
That is my boy, number 91. Love him all day long. Anytime you talk to him, please tell him he's got a fan down here. And whenever he's down at DeSoto Speedway racing his trucks, I wanna hook up with him. I got a couple racing questions that I'm dying to ask him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aside from that, let's talk about the Sky. 2-0 right now, and you and I both had a chance to watch this game last night. Let's just talk about the impact, because Allie Quigley did not play. Azure Stevens did not play. And probably the biggest surprise to most of us was that Candace didn't play. Yet the Sky came out, you know, just with such a ferocity in the first half, and we're able to close it out. But I want to get your thoughts on this team thus far.
I mean, I think that we've all been impressed with them so far this season. I mean, 2-0 to start the season, and just both wins. First of all, to get a win against the Mystics and win in that fashion was definitely impressive, because as much as, you know, some people may talk about Elena Deladon not being available for that game, the Mystics have given the Sky problems in the past beyond just what, you know, Elena Deladon has done. So getting their third win since trading Elena in 2017 was obviously big. And then, the road win against the Dream with, you know, some of their biggest stars out definitely speaks to what this team is going to be capable of. I think absolutely there are things that they need to clean up. We saw a lot of turnovers in the second half, and before the game, Wade spoke about, you know, having a complete game, and I don't think that was it. But I think a huge takeaway from game 2 is the fact that with Candace Parker out, with Allie Quigley out, with Azure out, they were still able to get it done, and they looked really strong for a large portion of that game.
Yeah, and again, only 9 turnovers in the first half. I was going to ask James how he felt about that, but then in the second half of the game, I definitely saw the team really have to kind of not get complacent, if you will. They jump out to these such commanding leads to where, you know, last night it was as much as 23 points. And it just seems like at times they get into this comfortability piece. But the one thing we can't ignore is just the mental toughness of my girl from Rutgers, Miss KFC, Kalia freaking Copper, because she was just, for the time that she didn't play, you could definitely tell there was a different feel within that team. But when she is on the court, make no mistake about it, that is probably one of the most mentally tough women out there today. Can you just speak to, you know, Kalia Copper and how she is continually elevating not only her game, but her name in this league?
Yeah, I think what's really exciting for me covering this team is the number of storylines surrounding this team. And obviously there's no ignoring the fact that Candace Parker returning home is going to be a storyline that we all follow throughout the season. But I think even more intriguing is Kalia Copper's story and the breakout season that she had last year, and the fact that she started 2021 in such a commanding way. And it's just the beginning. I mean, we've heard from the team for the last month about the impact that Parker makes in terms of elevating everybody's game. And I think seeing her and Kalia together was such an indication of Kalia Copper's ceiling. I mean, we haven't even seen it yet, I don't think. And obviously there's no All-Star game this year because of the Olympic break, but people are already talking about Kalia Copper as an All-Star. And, you know, last night we saw some frustration from her, and I really, appreciate her and her leadership and the leadership that she's taken on within this team. And I asked her about that frustration during the post-game press conference, and you know, she's right. Her frustration didn't impact the game at all. And I think that was kind of what I was trying to get at in my question for her was, as this young leader on the team, how are you going to move through those moments of frustration and make sure that, you know, they don't impact the game, because that's the mark of a true leader.
And I think a lot of that came from her being the assistant coach at Purdue in the offseason. I think she was able to take some of those lessons that she had got previously from Wade, applied those to her being an assistant coach, and then bringing what she learned there as well into the mix, into the fold. Speaking of all-stars, I mean, listen, Diamond DeShields, by far, in my opinion, is a true athlete from top to bottom, from start to finish. She has such a physical presence that I think might actually intimidate some of the other women in the NBA. I mean, listen, we saw in the third or the fourth quarter, we saw her shot get rejected. But the fact that Diamond just basically took it and then just kind of sat down like, okay, you got me on this one, I'm going to correct it. Speak to me about that, because I am just still in awe of her and what she is capable of doing.
Yeah, I think what's really been impressive about Diamond thus far in the first two games, and again, we've only seen 2 games so far. So, but I think what's really been impressive about Diamond is that she wants to be more than just a scorer. She said she wants to be a playmaker, and she struggled scoring a little bit in comparison to what we've seen in the past and know that she's capable of. And I think that for some players for most players, I'm sure that's an extremely frustrating thing to come start the season and not come out and dominate, scoring maybe like you're used to, and you haven't seen that affect other areas of her play. And so I think that really speaks to the way that she is elevating her game, and she is growing as a player beyond just a scorer. She's a threat in every aspect of the game. And I think what's been extremely impressive also has been her play on the defensive end of the court. And the team has spoken about on defense that translating to points on offense, especially in transition. And this team in transition, wow. I mean, teams are going to have problems with them in transition, especially if they keep up this defensive intensity throughout the season.
Oh, yeah. And the tempo, I think, is the tempo that James Wade definitely wants them to play with. I mean, watching the game last night against the Dream and just seeing how, from the moment the ball is hitting the rim, you've got 1, if not 2 Sky players already starting to make their way down to the other end of the floor. And it's finding these women, which we know very much you have athletes like Courtney Vandersloot can do. I saw Diamond and Kalia connect a few times last night, and it's becoming a thing of poetry, if you will, watching these ladies play. I want to take a quick move from, I guess, the starters, if you will, and just talk about the other athletes for the Sky, such as an Astu or even a Stephanie Watts, Natasha Mack, who did get her official first start because they brought her back for more evaluation, as James said. And then, of course, the second-year girl who was just on fire last night in Ruthie Hebert. When we look at the NBA sometimes, we always talk about, well, does this team have depth? What is their bench production going to do? the Sky, as well as the rest of WNBA, sometimes they don't have that depth that they like to have. Sometimes they're only playing with 8 or 9 players. But what we saw last night, especially in that second half, was even though you had at sometimes Courtney with Stephanie Watt, you had Brittany Boyd-Jones, you had Stu, and you had Ruthie, it didn't matter which 5 Chicago Sky players were on the floor. They made it work. Give me your thoughts on them as they progress, because they are going into they're probably their largest homestands of this season, where they are going to face the Atlantas of the world again. They're going to face the Spark. They're going to face the Mercury, and not to mention, you add all that in and then throw on top of that, we have the Commissioner's Cup trying to win that 500,000. Can you just speak to me about how everybody on the team knows their role and, more importantly, contributes? Doesn't matter whether you're a starter or you're coming off the bench.
Yeah, I think everybody is still learning their role. That cohesiveness we did get to see against Atlanta with, Quigley and Parker out. We saw other players step into starting roles. So, but I still do think that it's going to take time to build that cohesiveness. And what I think is going to be really interesting to watch in this next stretch of games is how they match up against the Mercury, against the Liberty, against the Sparks, as you mentioned. This is going to be a tough stretch for them. And I think now is when we're going to see really that cohesiveness that Wade has spoken about trying to develop. And I think that you're right. I think you made a great point that the bench players, from top to bottom, every player on this team, it knows their role. And maybe if they don't know their role, they're continuing to learn it. But I think what's more important is that they're willing to play any role. So I don't necessarily know if everybody's got their role down pat just yet, but it's more that they're comfortable playing any role. And when you have a team of players that can put their egos aside, that's willing to step into any role at any time, that's when you really see magic on the court. And we heard that from Quigley earlier last week, talking about even herself. I kind of thought that maybe we would see Kalia step into a starting position with the Chicago Sky, become a solidified member of that starting 5. And Quigley was that she's down. She's down to play any role. And for a veteran of her status to express that, I think that indicates how the rest of this team moves, that they really are, down for the cause and down for that fight for a championship, and whatever it takes to get there, they're going to do that.
Yeah. And that's amazing. Listen, Annie, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Annie Constable, Chicago Sky, also Sun journalist for the Chicago Sun-Times. And please let my audience know, where can we find the Equal Pay podcast?
Yeah, you can listen to the Equal Play podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. I have the link in my bio on Twitter. So if you head to, my Twitter page, you could click there and it'll direct you to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the different ways that you can listen to it will be right there. And also, if you subscribe to the Sun-Times, you can listen right from our website. So I appreciate everybody for subscribing, all of our followers that click on our Chicago Sky coverage and the Chicago Red Stars as well. You guys are helping to broaden our women's sports coverage, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you to all the subscribers who read our great coverage on women's sports in Chicago.
Awesome. And you know what I love most about you? This is a woman, ladies and gentlemen, who simply says it. She has got to be her damn self. I think you stole my line from back in the day.
I mean, what else are we here to do? If we're not being real, then we're not doing it right. So I'm always gonna be 100 with everybody, and I just think that's how you got to be.
Appreciate you. Annie Constable, ladies and gentlemen, Sky reporter. Listen, I'll see you in the Zoom rooms. Thank you for your time here in the sports arena.
Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Your man, Eric Wilson. I will talk to you guys really soon. Hey, WNBA, 25 seasons. #count it. See it.